In Brazil, an Easter dessert was allegedly laced with poison, leaving a 7-year-old boy dead and his mother and sister critically ill. Police say the festive package was part of a calculated plot driven by jealousy and rage, and the woman accused of sending it may have been hiding in plain sight. I'm going to break down the tragic details of this case with a Brazilian criminal defense attorney. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. So just in time for the Easter holiday in Imperatriz, Brazil, a package arrived on a Wednesday afternoon, and it was a festive box of dessert decorated to look like colorful Easter eggs. And there was a handwritten note that was tucked inside. And that note read, translated from Portuguese, "With love to Mirian Lira, Happy Easter." 32-year-old woman receiving the gift, Mirian Lira, had no reason to suspect that it was anything but a kind gesture. So she shared the dessert with her two children, 7-year-old Luis Fernando and 13-year-old Evelyn Fernanda. But within minutes, everything took a horrific turn. According to reporting from media outlet Globo, 7-year-old Luis reportedly started convulsing, his tiny body trembling violently, his breaths turned shallow, foam gathered at his lips, and tragically, by dawn the next day, he was dead. His mother and sister Evelyn, they also fell seriously ill. Both were hospitalized in critical condition. Imperatriz Online reports that Mirian had been moved out of the ICU and is able to communicate, but Evelyn still intubated. And what seemed like a tragic accident was what police now say a meticulously planned murder, an attempted murder, one fueled by what they believe is jealousy, revenge, and a woman's chilling determination to punish her ex-boyfriend's new love interest. So I got to take you to the beginning of this. The story unfolded on April 16th, and police reviewed this surveillance footage from a supermarket in Imperatriz, Brazil, capturing this woman purchasing a box of Easter egg dessert. That footage, released by the outlet Globo, shows the woman paying in cash, her face partially hidden behind oversized glasses. The eggs she bought, police say, were then delivered to Mirian's home the same day by a motorcycle courier. And the note inside read, again, "With love to Mirian Lira, Happy Easter." Now, Mirian's sister told the outlet Imperatriz Online that Mirian actually got a call after the surprise was delivered, making sure it got there. And when she asked who was on the other end of the phone, the person reportedly said she would know who it was. So, who is this woman? Who was captured apparently on this CCTV footage? Well, police later identified her as 35-year-old Jordélia Pereira Barbosa. And investigators made a chilling discovery. Barbosa was the former girlfriend of the man now dating her alleged target, Mirian Lira. And there's another shocking twist that we're going to get to in just a minute. According to investigators, the dessert arrived at Mirian's home, and her son, 7-year-old Luis, was the first to eat some of it. His reaction, as I talked about, it was horrifying. It was immediate. He was rushed to the hospital. Doctors battled to save him, but by midnight, his heart gave out, and he tragically passed away. Mirian, Evelyn, though still alive, they were left fighting for survival, apparently ravaged by some sort of toxin in these eggs. And the London Evening Standard reports that authorities sealed up the remaining dessert for forensic testing, but the symptoms, violent convulsions, respiratory failure, that pointed to a fast-acting poison. According to Globo, police were pointed in Barbosa's direction after taking a statement from Mirian's partner, who told them that he had an ex-girlfriend, Barbosa, who could have been behind what happened. So then police started doing a background check on her, and they discovered that she was originally from Santa Inês, a town in the northeastern part of Brazil, but she had been staying in a hotel in Imperatriz when the egg-shaped dessert was delivered to Mirian's home. They even reviewed security footage from a hotel that supposedly captured Barbosa in the lobby. But once they began reviewing footage from a supermarket in Imperatriz, they uncovered a shocking twist. And police say the suspect in this image was wearing a full disguise during the purchase. The black wig, the oversized glasses, all part of what investigators describe as a deliberate effort to conceal her identity. Now, crazy story, yeah, but thank you for coming to us for our coverage of it. And I also want to thank Odoo for sponsoring this episode, helping make this episode happen. Now, what's Odoo? Oh, I don't know, just an incredible all-in-one business management software that provides you with a range of different applications like their Projects app. Look, we know managing projects can be tough, but with Odoo Projects app, it doesn't have to be. You need a clear timeline? The Gantt view maps out your tasks, help you stay on track. Maybe you prefer a more flexible approach? The Kanban view lets you move tasks easily from to-do to done, or if you like structure, the list view gives you all the details at a glance. Plus, Odoo's comprehensive dashboard keeps you updated on task status, activities, remaining time, so you're always in control. And with powerful reporting tools, you can track your project's budget, milestones, profitability in real time. The Odoo Projects app helps you stay organized, meet deadlines, and boost productivity. So right now, you can get a free 15-day trial of Odoo's all-in-one business solution. Scan the QR code on screen or check it out at our link, odoo.com/sidebar project. All right, so before we go any further, I want to bring back on a special guest, somebody who we brought in last time when we talked about an alleged poisoning out in Brazil. That was of a Christmas cake, really bizarre situation there. I'm back here with criminal defense attorney Adrielli Barca. Thank you so much for coming back here. It's good to see you. What are your thoughts so far in this case? Because the last time you and I talked, it was about that Christmas cake poisoning episode. Now, what do you think about this?
Hi, Jesse. Thank you for the invitation. My thoughts on this is that a lot of information has been leaked by the police to now, but most of it could be interpreted as circumstantial evidence.
And so let's talk about that. So the note, with love to Mirian Lira, you would imagine prosecutors would say, this is deliberate, this is premeditation. How would the defense say, you know, that's not what it seems to be, that it's not evidence of criminal intent?
And the fact that the note had no name on it and they don't know who called her after that makes it hard for you to see who could have wrote that, who could have sent that at this point. Of course, we have a lot of evidence that she was in the city and everything else, but from the purchase of the egg to the egg being poisoned and delivered to the victim, so many things could have happened in the meantime at a defense point of view.
Sure, 100%. Although you couple that with the apparent surveillance footage of what seems to be, prosecutors saying, you know, her in the store wearing a disguise. How would you approach that? How would you approach challenging what that evidence seems to show, or even it being admitted into court?
How I would challenge that, particularly I would say that she could be disguised for various reasons. She could be uncomfortable with her own appearance. She could be visiting city and she didn't know, or she didn't want anybody to know why she was visiting that city, and it could be completely unrelated to what happened.
Do you think that in a case like this, when you're talking about the death of such a young victim, that has an impact on a jury, right? And how would you navigate that? What would you tell the jurors at a trial? Because this is a really, really sad situation. And obviously the jury would want some sort of justice here, but they have to look at just the facts and the evidence like they do here in the United States. What would you tell the jury so that they don't make a decision based on emotion?
First of all, we need to have a forensic evidence, scientific evidence that the poison that was supposedly found with her was actually the poison that killed the child. Of course, that makes a lot of difference in our penal code. The killing of a child, the homicide of a child especially, is an aggravating cause to homicide. So this is going to be considered both in the qualified homicide and the attempted homicide of the second child. The part that I would point out the most is the scientific evidence and the line between the logical line between her purchasing the egg and the egg actually arriving at the victim's house. Also, the circumstance in which the poison was seized by the police. That was observing legal procedure that can be valid. If it wasn't, even if the scientific evidence points out that it was actually the poison that killed the child, it can't be used.
I see, I understand. Okay, so let me move on a little bit and talk about this a little further. So now that they've apparently identified their suspect, police started tracking her. And they were able to trace her steps, or at least they say they do, to a bus station where they made this arrest. And Barbosa, they claim, was allegedly attempting to flee by boarding a bus from Imperatriz back to Santa Ynez, but Globo reports that she was arrested upon arrival there. And according to a statement from Deputy Chief Ederson Martins of Brazil's civil police, and this is again translated from Portuguese, she arrived in the city of Imperatriz Wednesday, the 16th. She had left Santa Ynez during the night and arrived in the city of Imperatriz in the morning. There, she planned the delivery of the Easter egg, which was delivered at night to the victim's residence. They ate it there, and the first victim fell ill. All three were hospitalized, and the child died. The suspect was already returning to Santa Ynez in the morning. She took the bus in the early hours of the morning and was approached by her teams, arriving in Santa Ynez in the afternoon. And following her arrest, police seized an absolutely bizarre assortment of items, including 2 wigs, 1 blonde, 1 black, you can see the black one pictured there, a bunch of what looks to be medicine, scissors, bus tickets, one of which, according to Globo's reporting, was purchased on April 14th, so that's 2 days before Mirian received the package. What looks like tiny granules of chocolate that police believe Barbosa had mixed poison into, and a fake employee badge that police believe was used in an earlier unsuccessful poisoning attempt. Yes, you heard that right. We're going to get to that a little bit later. And the civil police say that they were able to take samples of that dessert, send them for testing to determine what kind of substance was inside, but this can take about 10 days to process from the day they were sent, so we don't yet know what may have been inside. Talk to us real quick about how that works, the forensic testing, how long it takes, what they do, and what we can anticipate there.
This forensic test takes about 10 days to conclude. Since she's already been arrested, it has to move a lot faster than it would if she was on the loose. So it's 10 days to that test, and the first part of this procedure has to take maximum 90 days, or she has to be let go. So they have little time to speak about that.
You look at the seizure of items, the wigs, you look at the bus tickets, the timing, the surveillance footage, the apparent motive here. Is this a tough case to defend?
Yes, absolutely.
And I mean, you've illustrated certain ways to try to make sure there might be alternative explanations for why she was allegedly in disguise, you know, the chain of custody, how evidence was collected. But if they can prove she was there and then left, that feels like a problem. That feels like an issue. Why was she there at that exact time as these individuals were allegedly poisoned?
Yes, the main point in this case is that what has to be proven by all means is scientifically that the poison was used on a child and she was linked to the poison. Without that scientific proof, without the report, it can't be used to assume that she was the one who did that. Even with all the circumstances around it, without that report, is going to have to be dismissed or at least declassified.
What's declassified?
Declassifying is changing the type of the crime.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. Oh, okay. I see what you mean. So let's get to that, actually. Regarding, by the way, the substance and how police found it, Chief Ederson Martin said when she was approached already on the bus, the product was actually found with her, chocolate, part of the chocolate she took, as well as some granules that could possibly have some poison mixed in. And Ms. Barbosa was arrested and charged with homicide for the death of Luis, as well as 2 attempted homicide charges. She's currently being held in the Santa Ynez prison. Globo reports she actually did give a statement to police where she reportedly confessed to buying the dessert, denied poisoning it though, and nonetheless though, police say they are certain of her involvement. According to a statement from Security Secretary Mauricio Martins, the evidence suggests through several points investigated that the crime was motivated by revenge, by jealousy, given that the ex is the current partner or boyfriend of the victim who was poisoned along with her 2 children. Now, Adrielli, let me ask you this. Is motive an element of a crime? What do I mean by that? Do prosecutors have to prove motive in order to convict Barbosa?
Not in order to convict her of homicide, but in order to convict her of qualified homicide, which is a heinous act, and it's a total different procedure. In the baseline of homicide, we have at least 6 years. When we talk about qualified homicide, we have 12 to 30 of a penalty, so it's very different. we already have this qualified condition of the fact that poison was used and that the victim was a child. Both victims were child. And the motive is another qualified hypothesis, so that could increase her penalty a lot.
Just to be clear, she's not looking at life in prison though?
No, Brazil doesn't have a life sentences or even death sentences, at least not on civil procedures. We have death penalties only on military procedures, but it was never applied at all. And on the civil cases, we don't have no life in prison or death penalties. The most time that she could spend in prison at all is 40 years.
Okay, I understand that. And you mentioned before about downgrading the charges. I imagine that's something that her defense attorney would try to do. You declassifying it, lowering the charge. What would that be? If it wasn't homicide, what could she be tried for?
Probably what you would call aggravated assault. But I wouldn't consider that a possibility because we already have one victim who died. If none of them had died, if all of them were only in the hospital at this point, we could be talking about aggravated assault. But since we already have one victim, we already have the assumption that even if the other two weren't killed, there was an intent.
By the way, what are her rights now that she's detained, now that she's in jail? What are her rights?
Basically, speaking about the procedure, her arrest has to be reviewed every 90 days. And it has to be justified every 90 days to see that she needs to be arrested. She needs to continue arrested. There's also the excess of time to finish this procedure. They have a limited time that they have to do this. The police report has to take about 10 days. After that, the prosecution has 5 days to prosecute her. After that, they have 90 days to actually decide if she's going to a jury. And after that, they have about 6 months to conclude the judgment. So I would say she has about at least 9 months in this procedure, and she's probably going to stay arrested in that time. But every 90 days, the judge has to justify the reason that she has to be in prison. At this point, what they're using is the fact that she is a danger to society because of the gravity of what happened.
By the way, separate note, this is not where the story ends because as I mentioned earlier, police suspect Barbosa was actually involved in another poisoning attempt that also targeted Mirian. According to People magazine, weeks earlier, Barbosa had allegedly shown up at Mirian's workplace, a local supermarket, posing as a candy company representative offering free samples. And suspicious employees turned her away when she couldn't name the company that she worked for. But undeterred, she apparently waited in the parking lot handing out what authorities have said was tainted sweets to staff. But Mirian wasn't there that day. Had she been, police say, this tragedy might have happened sooner. Adrielli, given the previous alleged poisoning attempt at the supermarket, will this come into evidence? What do you take away from it?
Unless we have at least a police report on that case, it can't be used as evidence. It could be used as a proof of her conduct before that, because there are many points that can be used to make her penalty. And in the first phase, which is the base penalty, the penalty that is done before you consider aggravating causes and qualified circumstances, is you first speak about who is this person, what type of thing she has done before, what is she known for in society. And that aspect can be a key to making this penalty bigger right in the beginning. It can be used substantially as evidence that she was tried before if there's no police report, but it can be used as a social circumstance regarding her.
Why do you think she wasn't charged? She wasn't criminally charged with respect to that prior incident?
A lot of this is around circumstantial evidence, including the assumption that she did this by jealousy, because there was no no actual evidence that she was pursuing this, that she showed that she was jealous of something, of anything, that there was a fight, that there was a conflict between them. Not yet. Not that there isn't, but it wasn't shown, it wasn't published in the media yet. The police spoke about it circumstantially, but it didn't show proof at this point.
By the way, I have to ask you, the last time we spoke, the first time we met, we were talking about that other case of a woman who laced a Christmas cake with arsenic, killing 3 relatives. Remember that case? And I have to wonder, does this happen often? Do you see these kinds of cases of poisonings of desserts? It's shocking.
Yes.
You see these cases a lot?
Well, yes. There is a poison that is casually known by chumbinho. It's a name which translates literally to little lead. And that's very common to be found in laced food. Brazil is a very big country, is a continental side country. So when it comes to criminal cases, we have a lot of variety in this aspect. And it was sad that the case that happened with the cake, we didn't have a conclusion actually about that because the suspect of the crime died before she was judged, she was trialed.
Listen, Adrielli Barca, thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate your insight, coming here, talking about this, because we don't know very much about Brazilian law, so it's important that we get your insight. Really disturbing case, and our hearts and prayers go out to the family that was affected by this, and it's just such a sad situation thinking about the loss of such a young life. But thank you so much. It was good seeing you.
Thank you for inviting me.
And that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.